They told me for years there was no money in podcasting. Well, they were all wrong. I have gray hair.
It's a lot of gray hair. It's there and it's never going away, Kae Murphy. My gray hair is never going away. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Talking with Tarashuk, the Talking with Tarashuk podcast. And with me, Will Tarashuk, and my consistent theme the past few weeks of talking to friends and family or whoever else I know personally in the real world continues with the one, the only, my co-host, partner in crime on the Kings of the Rings podcast, among so many other titles, which I can't wait to get into. The one, the only, Kae Murphy. Kae, how are you, my love? I'm so happy to see you.
I'm so excited to be here, especially since last night's KOTR did not go so well for me.
Yeah, what happened to you? Your internet just cut. I forgot to ask you, is your internet okay now?
Oh, it's more okay than it was last night. I don't know.
I'll take it.
I genuinely don't know what was going on last night. Like, it was just mad spotty. And then it got to a point where I just never came back. I'm like, I am not fighting this all night. So I'm like, I'm just going to just die and let them have a good show without having to worry about patching me back in every 10 minutes. So yeah, hopefully today will be better. Today's been chaotic as fuck.
Well,
So,
okay, run it down. Tell me about it.
Today was my day off, but like,
Classic.
but it did not feel like a day off because my body and my brain is still very much, adjusting to coming back from the Bahamas last week. I've been home a week already and my body is fucked up. My concept of sleep is fucked up. So I've been catching up all day because I have not cleaned or done anything productive. I did like a month's worth of laundry yesterday that I put away today, and I cleaned. And then I drove to Long Island with my friend to go pick up a grocery order. And then came home from Long Island to do a work meeting. I had to do a consultation for a graphic design project via texts, and Zoom could not happen. And now I'm here.
Jeez, Kae. I thought my day was chaotic. I just woke up, standard time, worked for a little bit at home, and then went straight into the office. And I'm going back to Miami for this work conference, right?
When are you going?
April 11th to the 15th, something like that. It's like the second or third week in April.
Okay. When you go to Miami, you need to go to this place called, I think it was called like El Sandwich. That's where I got the Cuban. It's in Little Havana.
Okay. I have no idea where I'm staying in Miami, but I'll make sure to write that down. But we're like setting up equipment. It's a 3-camera shot, the panel lights, and like so many HDMI cords and extension cords. So it's like setting that up, testing it out, breaking it down, doing the regular job, coming home, cooking a little bit, and then chilling and getting ready for this podcast. So it's been a crazy day, but Kim, we have a lot of crazy days. And typically how I like to start these podcasts with people I know in real life is just like, how did we meet each other?
Is this the first guest game?
Kind of, a little bit of the first guest game. I mean, we can talk about wrestling because you've never actually played the first guest game, I don't think.
Yes, I have.
You have?
I have.
Oh, we can always.
I wasn't always.
That's why you were a guest first.
Yeah, I forget I was a guest all the time. I feel like I've just been.
It's been a few years, but when I actually met you in person? Was it the weekend of Evolution? That was the very first time.
The first time I met you and Ricky in person was Evolution. So it was October 2018. So almost 4 years.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
I know. And then I joined the show. This year will be 3 years on the podcast for me.
3 years
on KOTR
in April. No,
May,
right? Oh my God, 3 years.
I feel like I just joined, and so much has fucking changed for all of us since.
It really is wild. Yeah, I went through. I was unemployed. I had this job, and I'm doing the company. It's funny because literally that weekend after we met, I literally went into work that Monday and got let go. Like,
you got fired that week?
Yeah, it was that week because it was October 28th was Evolution. That was a Saturday or a Sunday?
Sunday.
And then it was that Tuesday because the day before Halloween. So isn't that wild, Kae Murphy? The day I meet you in person, the day my life changes literally forever.
Well, I'm glad something good came out of it.
But a lot has happened even between the two of us because I mean, you moved, I moved twice. Is this your first time away from home?
I lived in an apartment with my ex-boyfriend like many years ago, but I lived 5 minutes away from my parents.
Okay.
So yes, but kind of. So I've experienced, I moved out of my parents' house the first time I was 20, which stupid fucking stupid. I dated this guy. We went to high school together. We dated for 4 years. It was terrible. That man fucked me up. And I moved in with him less than a year into the relationship. But I lived 5 minutes away from my parents' house. So when shit hit the fan and I left him, I was literally able to just put my shit in my car and just drive 5 minutes up the road. So I moved to Astoria. I've been here 7 months already. Like
no, no way.
Yeah, I moved in August because
that's right. It was right after your birthday and right after
I moved right before my birthday.
Okay.
I moved 3 weeks before I turned 30 because also Frank's age correlates with how long I've been in Astoria.
Oh, you're a lizard.
My bearded dragon.
Your bearded dragon. Shout out to Frank.
Frank Tortellini, the man, the goat, the living legend. So I got him in September of 2021 and he was a month. I got him mid-September. So he was a month and a half old when I got him. So based on math, he was born the week I moved to Astoria. So I observe his birthday on the August 1st. This is observed birthday, which is also the anniversary of me moving here. So literally, 2 days ago, I guess was the first. And I was like, Frank is 7 months old today. That I'm like, I've been here 7 months. Literally, my life is so different, completely fucking different than it was this time last year.
It's wild. It's wild, Kae. Like literally, this in the few years we've known each other, it's how much we've both grown so much. You know, you recently finished your bachelor's, right? Like year and a half ago.
I still have not finished my bachelor's.
It was your associates then.
No, I have a bunch of certifications and random shit.
Okay, certification random shit. Okay.
So I
know someone who got their bachelor's.
Dave.
No, I know Dave. Dave's a complete different story, but it was like someone very recently went back and got something. I thought it was you. I guess I'm mistaken.
You're correct in the fact that I started school again for my bachelor's, but I'm currently once again on pause because I can't afford it. So like I've been studying psychology at Southern New Hampshire University, but I went on pause in December because not for nothing, trying to pay for this wedding in Georgia is killing me. Because the wedding is next month. I was just in the Bahamas for the bachelor party. And then the month before I was in Georgia for the bridal shower. So I'm traveling 3 times in like 3 months and it's a lot. So I'm like,
how many weddings you got this year? I got 3.
This year, the only wedding I'm in this year is Mike and Danielle. And then I'm in one wedding next year.
Okay. And you had one last year.
Yes. And the year before before.
Well,
every year, one of my friends have gotten married. Technically now I'm technically next. Like in terms of people in relationships, like I'm the most recent person to get in a relationship and they're like 3 of the dudes are single. But in terms of the girls, I will be last. Like the feminine energies of the group, I will be last. But like kind of glad for it because 3 of them were engaged at the same time.
Yeah, wouldn't be that. I don't know. It's gone to the point where like my grandmother is starting to ask me when I'm getting engaged. And she's like, William, you're turning 27 now. Like, when are you and Jasmine getting married? I'm just like, Mimi, we haven't been dating 2 years. Like, slow your roll, all right? Simmer down. Not happening anytime soon.
How long would you wait before you proposed?
You know,
whether or not Jazz or somebody else.
Well, it's definitely gonna be me. We are very a traditional, I guess cisgendered relationship. That's
heteronormative.
Heteronormative. Okay, so Kae Murphy, we're gonna get into a lot of these terminologies too, because that's what I love about you. So we're very traditional. So I'm definitely gonna be the one doing it. But I've been thinking. I thought about this for a long time growing up. Honestly, Kae Murphy, between you and me, and everyone listening to this, I always thought I was gonna be married by now. I thought, as a kid, I thought I'd be married with a kid by 27 years old.
Me too.
And now that I'm actually 27 years old, it's just like, I'm not having a kid until I'm like 37 years old. But to answer your question, how long would I want to do it? I'd probably say at least 4 years before I actually did it.
Okay.
Like,
that's good.
I know there's no proper answer to this question. How long should you wait before you get married? Like, when you know. It's just for me personally, I think 4 years is enough time for me to know. I'm sure I'll know before then, but still wait the 4 years because I have it in my brain that 4 years is a good enough time.
That's good though, that you're like, that you take it seriously and that you're taking the time to figure out, like, plus get your shit together.
Yeah.
Even though I feel like in this economy, there's no right time to get married or have children because we will never be financially good for it.
Right.
Because capitalism.
Right.
But like, I'm now 30, and dating in your 30s is very different than dating in your 20s. Like, my partner and I, like, we've been together for like 2 months, but like we've already had my partner is they just got divorced, so like they've been married before, so like I've obviously had that conversation, like, do you want to get married again? Like, and they do. And we both are on the same page of marriage and children and all these things. So like, you have to have these discussions as the older you get.
Right. So you and your partner, Kae, because I know you are non-binary, but how else do you identify, I guess, when it comes to your sexuality?
So gender and sexuality, they're two different things.
Right.
So not me being non-binary, that refers to my gender identity. So for those of y'all who don't know what that means, non-binary is pretty much you don't identify with either end of the binary, being, male or female. The way I like a good visual that I like to describe my gender, say you're in a school gym, like imagine your high school gym. The wall is taken down. The wall that would separate the gyms.
Right. Yeah.
So,
it's like a one class one side, one class in the other.
Yep.
It's like extendable wall. Yep.
So the extendable wall is open. You have the boys class on one side of the gym, and then you have the girls class on the other side of the gym. So you have to go pick what side you're on. I'm running in a circle between them, yelling.
Yeah, you had half court just running in a circle.
Yeah. So like, I feel that I personally like gender. Like, I don't identify any, like, I'm not like a woman. I'm not a man. I'm just Kae. Like, even though very often I can look like a cis woman, I don't look fucking straight in any capacity.
No, you're wearing rainbow glasses.
Yeah, they're my blue light blockers. I mean, I literally have been reflecting on my life lately, and I have the gayest life possible. I talk to more trans people in a day than I do cis people. Like, my partner is also non-binary. So they are not, like, from like the outside looking in, like, they look mad masculine. I look mad kind of femme. So like, we would look like, to the unknowing person, like, we'd look like a cis couple, but like, we are not. And honestly, it's made it so much easier because I've dated so many cis men, and they're like, do you have a penis? What's non-binary? What does that mean? Does this mean I'm gay? Like, it's a whole lot of uncomfortable questions that I've had to answer.
Well, how do you tackle those questions? I know for a fact I have asked some of those uncomfortable questions, but mine comes from a good place of just wanting to know more. But like, how do you tackle those questions, only for yourself, because you do work at the Trevor Project dealing with LGBTQ teens. So how do you deal with those questions? Is from other people, and I guess also from the people you work with?
So luckily at work, I don't have to answer these questions because they
already know. Yeah.
They already know everything. Like, they very much support you. If you feel comfortable sharing your pronouns, like, I use they, them pronouns. Like, so I don't get misgendered at work. Like, from day one, they knew that my name is Kae. I'm a non-binary trans person. I use they, them pronouns. It's in my email signature. No one has ever misgendered me or gotten my name wrong. Like, the only people that know my government name, because my name's not legally changed yet, is like my manager, and that's strictly because of payroll.
Right.
Like, nobody knows my legal name. Like, so my job is very gender affirming, and I don't have to worry about that in the workplace. Whereas I've had other jobs where I've been out at work and they've told me no, that I'm like, I use they, them pronouns. This is my last job at a restaurant. And I said, I use they, them pronouns and I'm non-binary. And they said no. And I'm like, what do you mean? No. And she's like, well, I'm very old fashioned and I just don't believe in that stuff. So then the 3 months I worked there, they just referred to me as the nice young lady with tattoos all the time. And it killed me.
That's just rude.
It was rude. And
that's just rude. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was one of those people who was just like, not that it's not real, but like, it doesn't grammatically make sense. But it's like, no.
But it does.
It does. And you're low key the one who's just like, no, Will, you're a fucking idiot. And it's like, no, I end up catching myself. It's like, oh yeah, like in normal speech, I go, oh yeah, that's they, them as a pronoun. And Kae Murphy, I'm not gonna lie, whenever that comes up, like my parents, I use you as an example
Do you?
all the time. It's because it's like all like your life updates, how you identify this, that, and the other. Because like my mom also does some volunteer work because she's retired. And she kind of gets into this because she doesn't understand the they them pronouns because she's in her early 60s.
Mhm.
It's just from a different world, but she's open-minded and like she gets the concept. But people get mad at her when she doesn't use the she her pronouns because that makes her uncomfortable because she doesn't get it.
What do
Like
you mean they get when your mom uses she her pronouns in reference to what, herself?
No, like it's like if like on an email chain or like when in a group circle they talk, they all say their pronouns. My mom doesn't do it. She doesn't say she her. She just says my name's Lisa, right? And then other people got mad at her for not expressing her pronouns. She's just like, I don't want to. That makes me uncomfortable. It's just like, it's not my thing. I'll happily use your pronouns. That's what you want me to do, but she's just not about it.
What about sharing her pronouns makes her feel uncomfortable?
I think that's just not how she was brought up, and she doesn't get it. Like it's just not, she's old. She's older. She's just not in with that kind of, she just doesn't get it. I don't know how to explain it, but what makes her comfortable, I can't actually answer that. But it's more of just like, I've done this my entire life. Why are you getting mad at me for wanting to change now when I'm more than happy to accommodate your pronouns?
So I have found in the in a professional environment, the option in general, whether it be on your social media bio, your email signature, whatever, like normal, like sharing your pronouns, like is not for cis people. Like, and I don't mean it but not in the sense that cis people shouldn't do it. Cis people absolutely should, because you should never assume somebody's like gender identity. Like people look at me and automatically think I'm a she, her when I absolutely am not. So by sharing your pronouns, it makes it you or she is or whoever is making it a safe space for people who might not necessarily feel comfortable sharing their pronouns to share their pronouns. Because I don't know, there are a lot of trans people I have spoken to that like have gotten mad at cis people for putting their pronouns in their bio, but like it's to normalize that, to normalize not assuming somebody's gender. Because your mom, like I've never met your mom, but like obviously, like you said yourself, your mom is like in her early 60s. So I'm assuming she looks very cis lady like.
Very. She got short hair, but that was a style back then.
Yeah. So even if she looks like hella cis lady, she might not necessarily use she, her pronouns. So even though it might seem to her like it's obvious that she uses she, her pronouns, it is not always obvious.
Right. But can you understand, like, if someone asked me what my pronouns were, I would be like, well, he, him, but why would you think otherwise? Like, could you understand why someone would be offended if they're cis and they're very clearly cis? Someone would be offended why someone asked them their pronouns.
Because there are people, like I'm one of these people, my partner is one of these people that like we look like cis people. Like I have no intention I don't plan on getting top surgery, which for those listening who don't know, that would be me having a double mastectomy and having my breasts removed. Like, I don't want that. I don't want to go in testosterone. Like, that's not part of my journey. And it's just, you can't assume, like, if people that might clearly look cis might not be cis. Right. So people ask, like, it's not to be like asking like, oh, are you trans? It's to make sure that everybody feels respected and validated, because some people that look really cis might, for whatever reason, might not be able to present in the gender they feel comfortable with. Like, well, like say like hypothetically, like you are a trans woman, right?
Right.
And you like use she, her pronouns, but like you, for what, either aren't safe to physically transition, you can't afford it, you're not sure if that's in your journey, because everybody's transition is different.
Right.
Like
it's a long process.
Yeah. And some people like choose to get like surgeries and take hormones and make changes to their body that other people don't. And each journey, each way of expressing your gender is totally valid. So by asking somebody who might, to the untrained eye, look really cis, might not be.
Right.
That makes sense.
So it does make sense, but we have a society, right, that's been around forever. That the trans people are not new. Gender identity is not new. Identifying as non-binary is not new, and the idea of a gender as a fluid system is not new. But the pronouns and using them and asking them are new.
That is a new thing, and
Right?
I think in the next 5 to 10 years, it will definitely be normalized.
I think over time it'll be more and more normalized for sure. But could you understand why? Like, for example, if you are a trans woman or a man, etc., isn't the burden, for lack of a better word, on you to let someone know what your pronouns are because of a system that's been in place forever, this being so new?
It depends on the person. Some people don't feel comfortable or safe sharing their pronouns. So like if I walked up, say I went to a mad Republican, mad cis, mad straight, conservative, trans hating event.
Yeah,
So
you wouldn't say, "Hey, I'm Kae. My pronouns are they them."
Yeah,
yeah. So, you generally feel unsafe, of course.
Yes. So by having in like say professional spaces, like in Zoom meetings or even on podcasts, like which is I have not done my due diligence on this, and like I like the idea of introducing pronouns and stuff at the beginning of podcasts. I forgot to do it today, so that's why I did it in the middle of the fucking show. But that gives people the agency to decide, do I want to share my actual pronouns? Do I want to abstain? Like it gives people an option. Like,
right.
I don't believe pronoun sharing should be mandatory because some people just aren't comfortable.
Right.
But I don't think that asking somebody like, oh, what are your pronouns is offensive. Like like a lot of cis people that might feel that way, that definitely like scream some internalized transphobia a little bit, because of people being afraid that they are being perceived as a trans person. There's a whole lot of ugliness and internalized transphobia in our society that we got to like work on. I see the gears spinning.
No, they are spinning. No, because that's why I love talking to you, Kae Murphy, because that's something I never thought of. The idea of like, you're assuming, say that point again. Hang on. Maggie just spinning. Say that point again. You just made one more time. About
which point? I mean,
about the internalized about us. Like I'm offended. Someone asked me my pronouns because it's assuming that you think I'm trans.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of cis people will be like, why the fuck would you ask me my pronouns? I'm clearly a woman. Well, right. Not everybody that might look what society expects women to look like might not feel that way. Honestly, I look like a punk rock lesbian most of the time.
It's interesting. What it makes me think of, like, you think of like decades ago, right? Or even like when I was a kid, if someone perceived me as gay, or if someone perceived someone as gay, they'd have the same reaction.
Yes.
Whereas nowadays, if someone thinks I'm gay, it's like, oh, that's adorable, right? Or like I thought one of my best friends was gay for a long time, and he's not. He just loves Lululemon. Right?
I'm totally on my shoe.
Right? But like people think he's gay all the time, but he's not offended by it. He just kind of laughs off, thinks it's hilarious. On the inside, he might be like a little whatever, but like it's very similar. I do see a lot of patterns with that between the trans community and the gay community when it comes to how cis people like react to them in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I do like recognize that there has been, especially in the last like decade or so, being gay specifically has become more normalized. Like Pride is fucking commercial as fuck now.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. There's a whole bunch of discourse about. Did I ever speak to you about rainbow capitalism?
No, please. Actually, maybe, but please. I want to hear it from the horse's mouth because I know exactly where you're going with this. I want you to go first, and I'll go on my rant.
Make sure you're not being offensive. Okay.
No, go ahead, please.
So rainbow capitalism is when companies piggyback off the queer experience and throw a rainbow on their logo and add new merch in the hopes of making more money to queer bait to queer folks. Mm-hmm. So rainbow capitalism for me, definitely it's a mixed bag, because while a lot of the companies and stuff that are screaming pride, number one, if they're selling pride merch, check to see if they're actually supporting LGBT like communities, or like donating to like, not to hype my job, but the Trevor Project, or like the Ali Forney Center, or the Human Rights Campaign, or local trans communities or LGBT community or whatever. Like if they're not donating to something, they're probably just here for the money. But on the opposite end, rainbow capitalism makes queer culture more accessible to somebody that might be in a little fucking podunk town in the Bible Belt. Like I grew up on Long Island and I live in New York City now. Like I'm very lucky to live in a neighborhood where I don't feel like I'm going to be jumped for being queer or trans. Whereas some of these kids in like fucking Iowa and shit, the only queer stuff they might see in person is the rinky-dink pride section in Target. And that's important. Like representation's like really important. Like I know, Will, like respectfully, you cannot relate to this because you're a cis straight white dude, but you can turn on any movie, any show, any whatever, and you can see yourself in at least one character. Whereas a lot of queer kids, definitely a lot of trans children, there aren't a lot of people for us to look at. Even now, I'm a fucking 30-year-old. And while I don't need to like necessarily look up to folks anymore like I did as a teenager, there's like minimal non-binary representation in like on TV or on shows or anything. Like I got to do some fucking digging if I want to see some quality queer content. And that's why I watch so much fucking Drag Race, because it's not as easy to find. Like that show is probably the most wholesome and like genuine non-binary representation I've ever seen. And I feel fucking seen. And I didn't realize how important it was to feel seen until I actually was.
We'll get into drags. I do definitely want to talk about drag because I actually am not a fan of drag, but I'm definitely a big supporter of the drag industry because I think it's fascinating. But, you mentioned like representation in acting, and this was a thought I had recently. It was not a light bulb moment that made me think of you, Kae Murphy. Me and Jazz love Euphoria.
Same.
And Jules, they don't tell you that she transitioned until like her episode. Yeah. Like when you first see her, like, pilot, I had a feeling.
Yes.
Right. And the actresses, I didn't know the actress herself was trans.
She is. Yes. And
the whole trans people should play trans roles movement or like ideology or hashtag or whatever you want to call it. It struck a new chord with me because it's just like, oh, like she's not like it's not she's acting out being trans. Like it's not like part of her character. It's just I don't know. It's just something I have trouble putting the words, but her performance is more about her character and not so much that that someone's playing a trans character.
Because they can look at her as just an actress playing a role. Whereas, did you ever see the movie The Danish Girl with Eddie Redmayne?
No, but I can think of it with like Dallas Buyers Club with Jared Leto playing. It's the same idea.
So I actually did enjoy The Danish Girl, but all you hear about with that movie is how Eddie Redmayne's like a cis white dude playing a trans woman, how brave he was for playing a trans woman when like trans actors like can barely get work as it is. And when there is a trans part once every year and you cast a cis person, that fucking sucks.
I get it. I get it. Well, here's the thing, Kae Murphy.
It's Oscar bait. Like you talk about Dolph Ziggler being Oscar bait on KOTR. That is fucking Oscar bait, making a cis person play a trans person.
That's another thing that totally clicked in my mind. Like too, I was like, oh, like because you think of Oscar performance, like if someone like a Jared Leto plays that, I mean, he's phenomenal in Dallas Buyers Club. I don't want to take away from his performance.
I haven't seen it, so I can't speak on it. But I'm sure he was great.
He did win the Oscar. Yes. But to your point, a reason he won the Oscar is because he's a straight man playing a transgender woman, I believe.
I believe so as well.
So, but like to your point, that's 100% correct. I don't want to say the issue I have, but I guess the one caveat is, acting is acting. The whole point of acting is playing someone else, which I guess is a valid but flawed argument. But also, if you're going to say trans people should play trans roles, which should sound like a dumb movement, does that mean trans people can't play cis roles? Does it work both ways? Like, what's your counter to that?
I feel like there are few, it's harder to say because it's not like there's an equality between trans parts and cis parts because there's not.
Right.
So ultimately you are going to see more trans people playing cis people, but that's mostly to get work. Like in a perfect world, there would be just as many trans characters as there are cis characters, and then parts can be filled more accordingly. And honestly, I find that like, and you see this with Jules and Euphoria. Like, did you watch the special episodes as well for the holidays?
No, I also haven't watched the finale yet, so no
Okay,
spoilers.
okay. Please talk to me when you and Jazz watch it. So
Yeah, she already watched it. She's been watching without me. I'm so mad. I wait for her.
wow.
I wait for her
So
to make her watch it again.
wow. So my friend Kevin pretty much bullied me into watching it. So I watched all of season 1 and the first 4 episodes of season 2 in 24 hours.
Wow. I mean, it's a great show. Let's do a little sideberg into Euphoria. Let's kind of fanboy and fan person up to Euphoria a little bit. Because I'm not gonna lie, Kae Murphy, I didn't watch season 1. I saw like the ads for it when I watched The Sopranos or whatever I watched like Bill Maher on HBO. I had no interest in it. What got me into it, one, Zendaya, because Spider-Man, she's a massive star. And 2, all the controversy around it from season 2 with the glorifying drug use. So I was like, all right, I gotta check this out. So what do you think of that? You know,
question, did you ever watch Degrassi or Skins?
No, but I know all about Degrassi.
Oh, so Skins, it originated in the UK. It was Euphoria, but 10 years ago. And like, it was not as graphic as Euphoria is. Like, the deal with Euphoria, it very often gets booked as a queer show, but like, that's not, it's not though.
I completely disagree.
I also disagree. Like, it at its best, it highlights addiction really well, because obviously that's another topic I understand very well.
Yeah.
And you said you did not watch season 1?
I didn't watch season 1 when it aired. I should correct myself. Yeah, me and Jazz binged it in like a week.
Okay. So every scene, especially like with Ali and Rue in rehab, that's exactly what the rooms are like. Like, AA has not been a part of most of my sobriety because it's too gendered for me. It's too religious. It's not my thing. But I spent the first 4 months of my recovery in AA because it was important to me to do it. And I probably wouldn't stay sober without it. But it gave me the tools to stay sober, but I left what I didn't need behind. So there's just a feeling that being in one of those rooms is where it's a little bleak, but it's also a little hopeful, because there's so many people in there, different ages, different races, genders, sexualities, like education, like completely different life experiences. But when people speak and share what they're feeling, the bottom line is it's all the same. And there's a common ground there. Like, I was very egotistical when I got into fucking recovery, and I'm like, I'm special. I was really fucked up. So like, what I did was justified. Like, I was very unhealthy for a very long time, and I was dealing with a lot of shit, and I used alcohol to cope with it. So I went in fucking thinking that nobody could understand me. It was very 16-year-old emo of me. And night 1, some man in his like 50s told a story about how he would try to get sober and then it would fail, and every time he would just drink worse and worse, and it would just be worse. And he talked about like specific things that happened to him, and those were moments and feelings that I had felt. And then I'm like, wait a moment. Then someone else spoke, and the light bulb went off that like, I'm like not a special snowflake, and addiction's fucking real and like devastating. So seeing Rue connect with Ali like that, even though they in any other circumstance would not be connected, like the rooms work that way. And even down to the fucking going to get pancakes. I used to go get pancakes every Thursday to stay out of the bar. So
I do love pancakes.
They're my favorite food.
Luckily, I do not have addiction problems. Thank God.
Thank God.
But it does run in my family. Substance abuse as well as alcoholism.
Mine too.
So I can't even really relate to that because I've never seen it. You know what I mean? Like,
you just heard about it?
Yeah, like it's like they're luckily, well, I should say luckily I've never seen it because they all have gotten help and are sober.
That's incredible.
So, and they haven't fallen off the wagon since like college. It's really just like, college in the 80s. But it was a severe problem, and gambling. My dad had a very bad gambling problem. Sorry, Dad, I know it's public now. But to the point of addiction, I'm going to go to my mom again. She was she worked in Brockton Hospital, Massachusetts, in the drug unit, and she saw people withdrawing from heroin frequently, and
Fuck.
like with the drug habits, and like she knows addiction, so Euphoria is right up her alley, and because she worked with these people,
Mhm.
and she says it's one of the most accurate depictions of addiction, how addiction can destroy a life
Yeah.
that she's ever seen. And I'm going to point to that one episode where Rue is withdrawing and she's going absolutely berserk. She's arguing with her mother, like punching her sister, running from the cops, breaking in the houses, stealing, getting caught. It's just very accurate, which is terrifying.
Mhm. That episode made me, that specific episode, like, I have a pretty high tolerance to trauma, which probably says a lot about me, but also I professionally work in crisis. So I kind of
Right.
have to. So needless to say, I watched this show very quickly. Some of these episodes I watched during work, which probably really was a bad idea mentally. But anyway, only a few episodes like really fucking fucked me up. And that one and the one dealing with the abortion like fucked me up.
Mhm.
Like I physically felt sick because the abortion one in particular, that's exactly what it felt like. And going through the lowest points of my addiction with alcohol, like I'm very lucky that I didn't fall into drugs and that alcohol is my biggest problem and that I didn't steal from anybody, but I was a fucking piece of shit. I was really rude and inconsiderate and a mess, very messy. So I often would break down and cry and scream and run away and do all of those things. And I literally watched her do all of those things. And I remember what it felt like to feel that way. It was really hard to stomach.
Well, what do you say to like the DARE program and people come out against the show saying it glorifies drug use? It's not suitable for like it's going to encourage drug use. And my thing is this like, well, listen, your kids should not be watching the show.
No.
Like I don't like maybe select episodes you show in a health class in high school, senior year. But anything below that, your kids should not be watching the show.
No.
This is a show for adults. So I don't think it glorifies drug use at all. In fact, I think it does the exact opposite. It makes you want like, I'm
It's a
never
cautionary
taking
tale.
drugs.
Yeah.
And also it's like these high school kids having so much fun. But like high school's not like that. At least I hope not.
No,
But what do you say to people saying it glorifies drug use?
I agree with you that I don't believe it glorifies drug use. I also feel that young people, any person has free will. Any person has the decision to make up their mind. So you and I can both watch Euphoria and like you could want to do heroin and I would not. Or I would want to, I don't know, fuck somebody and record it and you might not. Like different people, not saying we would do these things, y'all, we won't do these things, but just because somebody sees it does not mean they're going to act out and do it. If like I feel like in general, like our culture is very desensitized to sex and violence and drugs. Like drugs is a huge part of our culture. And alcohol is also a part of that. And like look at every high school movie. It talks every high school movie has a party and somebody gets really fucking drunk. Like to the point of being incapacitated and passed out. But usually it'll be made fun of, like somebody will draw on the drunk person's face or they'll do stupid shit or they'll have a lampshade on their head. Like, I feel like young people can decide for themselves and a TV show is not going to be the main factor in doing drugs.
That's a very good point. I can't see someone going, you know what? I wasn't going to do heroin until I saw Euphoria. Like, you know what I mean?
I'm sure there's one or two.
Yeah, it's
like,
300 million people in this country. I'm sure there's one.
That thinks, Euphoria, if it went well on Euphoria, I'm sure it'll go well for me.
But it doesn't go well in Euphoria. That's the thing.
No. Yep.
Like, here's the thing. Nobody in that show is likable. Other than like Lexi and Fez. But Fez is a drug dealer with a gun.
Fez is my favorite fucking character on the show.
Me too.
I love him.
He's the best.
You're confused? I'm fucking confused.
You fucked Jewel? I keep calling her Jewel.
Who the fuck is Jewel?
So, all right. So, yeah, definitely. Okay, Fed's our favorite character. Least favorite character? Definitely Maddie. Not Maddie.
Cassie?
Cassie.
My least favorite is Nate Jacobs because he is terrifying. And he reminds me of men I dated. And it's, again, not nice to watch.
He is a sociopath.
Oh, for sure. He gives me very Patrick Bateman vibes.
It's just funny when like him and Maddie or him and Cassie are arguing. It's like they're both right in their arguments, but then they're still together. It's like they both. It's just how toxic. Again, toxicity in a relationship, even like toxic relationships. We all know plenty of people with toxic relationships. It's like that's so accurate.
Yeah, dude, I could write a fucking book on toxic relationships. Like,
yeah.
I am in a healthy relationship for the first time in my life. And it's been genuinely shocking of how low my bar was. Because people in relationships can be so shitty and people are can be manipulative and cruel and abusive. Like, and Euphoria handles it really, really well, down to the point where Maddie gets fucking choked out and still is sneaking off every weekend to fuck him in the hotel and is standing behind her man.
Yep. That's how it happens.
That's exactly how it happens.
And you can one up it too, like in real life, where the man just won't let her leave, and she's physically and mentally and emotionally trapped.
Yes.
And that's what would happen to Maddie if they end up getting married.
Yes.
Like it's crazy. I've been watching this. I just finished it on Netflix. It's a 4-part series on Ken Burns and some other woman did it on College Behind Bars. Is what it's called.
Oh wow!
And it's New York State Penitentiary. A few colleges have this system, completely privately funded, where they take a few prisoners, up to 50 in a class, graduating class, and they get an associate's, or a bachelor's. They go to college. And they're taking real courses, and it's like it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Like these students and prisoners are very well educated. All of them went into prison when they were 16, so super young. But there was this one woman, because they cover male and female prisons. There's this one woman who was in an abusive relationship, beat her, and then her one fear was she was going to beat her kid. And there was a 2-year-old daughter, and he ended up, according to her, woke up one morning, and like he was like angry in one of his moods, like wanted pancakes or something. Took the 2-year-old downstairs. Next thing the mom knows that she has a thud, and her baby's the 2-year-old is like knocked on the floor. Get to an ambulance, get to a hospital. The baby dies.
Oh my god!
And the mom and obviously the dad are brought to jail, see what the hell happens, and she ends up getting a false confession. The police get a false confession out of her, and she goes to jail for it.
That's fucked.
Yeah. Riddle me that.
That's
just it starts from a cycle of abuse, and he didn't go to jail for that. He ended up murdering someone else a few years later and doing 30 years.
Wow.
But according to her, if you believe her story, and I do, that she never put a hand on her child, but the cop pretty much coerced her, and she was just in such a stupor where she was just like, fuck it, I did it. And she signed a paper saying she did it.
Wow.
The cops do that all the time. It's crazy.
I hate the cops.
Well, okay, you work with the Trevor Project, which is a nonprofit. You should look into the Innocence Project, because the Innocence Project is someone who tries to fight for people who are wrongfully convicted and get them released.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, like they are, and the guy who founded it has been on Joe Rogan's podcast like 3 or 4 times. Rogan's, it's like, I want to bring you on quarterly and just have updates with these people. So I think late last year he had him on, as well as one of the prisoners they got free. And it's just like the stories these people tell is crazy. But someone I know who works in nonprofits is something who would get behind a cause like that. So what made you want to work for nonprofits specifically? Like, I know because you work for Trevor Project. First off, explain what the Trevor Project is, how you got to work there, and why you like working with nonprofits specifically.
Okay, so we're gonna go on a whole long story, and this is
Go
because of
for it.
All right, so I'm very high now, so this is gonna be good. Hopefully, no one from the Trevor Project hears this. So in 2020, right before COVID, I was working in a restaurant, the same restaurant that ignored me being non-binary. So when lockdown happened, we all were taken off the schedule, and then so I was out of job, I was out of work, I was on unemployment for the first time in my life. Like I've been working since I'm 16. I was 28, freaking out. And a few weeks later, I guess, or months, or I don't know anymore how long it was. But when the restaurants were doing like just the to-go orders and stuff, they posted my position on Instagram, and I never heard from them again. And I knew I knew she didn't like me. I knew from the get-go, she thought I was annoying and she thought I was inefficient. And she said that she hired me because I worked at Starbucks for 8 years and I have like several years of retail management. Like my job before that job, I was the assistant manager of a T-Mobile. And so I came very well recommended and I didn't meet her expectations. And she straight up told me that based on my experience, she thought I would be better than she thought I'd be much better than I actually was. Like she constantly tried to gaslight me into, and this, I don't like using that word, but like this is genuinely gaslighting. She tried to like convince me that I was giving incorrect change because my drawer was always short because there was a server fucking stealing who killed a guy, by the way. I worked with this girl at this fucking restaurant and she went to jail because she was high on drugs and she ran over an old man and killed him. So this bitch was stealing from the tills. So as a result, my till would be short. So my boss would convince me that I was giving the wrong change and like and I'm not bad with change at all. I've been in retail since I'm 16. I'm not an idiot. Like, and so she would dock my tips would get docked all the time to recoup the losses that weren't even my fault. So, but there was never good enough reason to fire me. Then the world locks down and that was my out. She's like, well, I never have to call this bitch ever again. So I freaked the fuck out during COVID and I started taking graphic design classes and I started doing the social medias for Russell Attic Radio and Kings of the Rings. And I was just trying to figure myself out because I am now locked in my house, living with my parents on Long Island, not knowing what I'm going to do. And I'm like, I need to fucking figure it out. So I just kind of put a bunch of different hats on to see what would fit. And in May of 2020, I don't know what brought me. I don't remember what brought me here. It was definitely a high thought, but I was applying. I had applied for an internship with the Human Rights Campaign. I made it to the final round of interviews, was not selected. I also had just accepted in February of 2020, maybe, I think, or 2021. I also volunteered.
It would have been 2021 because February 2021 was when it just started. So you would have still been working at the restaurant.
Thank you. So February 2021, I was volunteering with I volunteer with a nonprofit called the Out Foundation, and they support LGBTQ Mormon students of Brigham Young University. It is the weirdest part of my life.
that's an interesting combo.
Yeah,
I mean, my gears are spinning.
Yeah, we ran into a group of Mormons on the cruise that were very fun. And yeah, I was never Mormon. I never lived in Utah. And so I've been to like Out Foundation outings in New York and they're like, do you go to BYU? I'm like, no. They're like, are you Mormon? I'm like, no. They're like, then why they're like, are you from Utah? I'm like, no. I'm like, I live in Queens. So like, then why are you here? I'm like, I answered an Instagram ad and they said yes. So I was just trying to do a whole bunch of things. I wanted to like give back to my community because one of the things that I really honed in on during lockdown was like queer theory. And I wanted to originally go back to school for gender studies, but ultimately felt psychology would be more beneficial because it would help me help others overall better. So I decided to apply for the Trevor Project as a volunteer counselor. And it's a fucking rigorous ass like screening process. And I didn't think I'd get picked. Like, I'm just this person that just works in retail most of their life and podcasts. Like I'm fucking 30 years old. I don't have a degree yet. So like I figured there's no way in hell they'd pick me. And they did. So I started training in December of 2020, and March 2022 will mark 1 full year of me like being a counselor in general. But it's like a really fucking rigorous training process. And they like fucking vet the shit out of you to make sure you are like a good fucking person.
Well, of
that,
course. I mean they have to. You're a counselor to teenagers. Is it specifically for suicidal?
It's crisis intervention.
Okay.
So suicide prevention is a part of that, but crisis can mean anything.
Right.
So whether it be somebody that's suicidal, somebody going through a breakup, I often talk to young people about navigating gender identity. We talk about breakups, anything really. It could be even something as what might seem as trivial as, oh, I'm mad at my mom because she took away my Xbox.
Right. But at the point being, if you're dealing with potentially suicidal issues, you need to be trained and vetted to make sure you can handle that. Because otherwise, you don't want to be responsible.
Yeah.
Even if you're not physically responsible.
Yeah. So I literally, the first night I had on the lines, I fell in love with the work like that immediately. And I've never connected with a job like that before. I've always worked jobs I hated or didn't mind. Like I worked at GameStop for 3 years. It was fun. I worked at a Halloween store for like 6 months. That was fucking rad. Worked in a hair salon for a couple of years. Hated it. Worked at Starbucks for 8 years. Really fucking hated it. My first job was a Wendy's. Like,
what did you do at the hair salon? Did you cut hair?
I was an assistant.
Okay, copy. Okay.
So I went to beauty school. I graduated beauty school. I graduated 10 years ago, but I never took my state board. So I am not a licensed hairdresser, but I often do hair in my house. I did my fresh undercut. That was me. So like fucking, I've done a lot of things and tried different things, and I tried to make them work. Like I tried to convince myself that being a hairdresser was the right move for me, and I hated it. I hated it a month into school, but I made myself stick with it because they're like, you put in for a fucking student loan, you're going to finish, you're going to graduate, you're going to like it. And I didn't like it. And I just kind of floundered. So I figured during lockdown, like this was my opportunity to not fucking flounder anymore. Like I'm done with it. So night 1 on the lines, I fell in love with the work. Like my job is really fucking hard.
Right.
And emotionally exhausting. Like I've had chats that like, let's just say didn't end well. And that is very hard to reconcile with. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, like I've had young people like lives were saved, or they even just left feeling better. So I knew from volunteering 3 hours a week, I'm like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. So I figured I'll volunteer for a few years, like let them get to know me, and maybe I can get a job.
Years, Kae. Come on now.
I didn't know. So, because keep in mind,
you're very talented. We got to talk about businesses and deal making.
Well, my reasoning being like, as a volunteer counselor, you work 3 hours a week,
right?
Which is not a lot.
It's not work, right? It's
not work. So I wouldn't be and I even noticed this since I got hired. Like, my performance as a counselor night and day changed.
Right.
Like I was very good as a volunteer, but like still, like
you got the reps in. Yeah, you get better at it.
Oh, for sure.
Of course.
So besides that, I wanted to, like get a degree in psychology or something equally beneficial. I wanted them to like find me to be a valuable candidate. And on paper, I wasn't a valuable candidate, at least in my opinion. So May 2021, I don't know what happened. I was really stoned and decided to go on the Trevor Project website, and I see a sign that says we're hiring. And then I click on it and I see that they are hiring for my position. And I text my friend and I'm like, Trevor's hiring. Do I shoot my shot? And he's like, yes. And I applied. And a month later, I got a phone call saying that I was hired. They like loved me.
Yeah.
Like, not to like brag, but like, I'm really good at my job.
Hey, brag away. I'm really good at my job too. I remember you telling us, me and Ricky and I, that is pronouns, pal, about your interview, and you're like, yeah, I already volunteer for you guys. Like, I already work for you guys. Like, what do you mean? Like, hire me.
And like it, like I impressed them in the interview and shit. And like, not for
Yeah.
I'm terrible in interviews, as you can see. I ramble or I answer the question incorrectly. Like, I never understood that there's a game in going on job interviews.
Well, good thing Kae Murphy's podcast isn't an interview. This podcast is just two friends talking.
Thank
So
goodness.
rambling is the best thing to do. And we could ramble all night, but I see that clock is ticking down closer. And I got one final thing to say before we go, because I know you do have to be out to here by 9:00.
Mhm.
Kae Murphy, I love being friends with you so
I love
much.
being friends with you.
This for so many different reasons. Like, I don't normally kiss the ass of my of all my guests, at least not too much, I don't think. But I'm gonna kiss yours a little bit, because a little bit of a humble brag as well. You started out, for those who don't know, Kae Murphy started out as a fan of the Kings of the Rings podcast. They were someone who just listened to our show, listened to my voice, Dave's voice, Ricky's voice, and ending up forming a faction of three women, of course, and Kae Murphy, known as the Valkyrie.
Oh goodness.
And when that formed, I remember me, Dave, and Ricky sat down with us like, this is the coolest thing that could ever happen. Because, you know, like, one day I want to get Mr. Fretz on this podcast because he's another fan who's also a friend. So the fact that you saw as a fan of the podcast, a guest of the podcast, someone we knew, and then when Dave unfortunately had to step down, me and Ricky were like, okay, you know, we'll think of, like, we'll have people on just in case. But we both looked at each other at the same time and went, no, we want Kae Murphy, but we'll do other people just in case something crazy happens. And the rest is history. You know, I meet you in person. I see you at the 7-Eleven next to Napoli's in Hempstead. And it's just the biggest bear hug. I think I might have done the twirl around even. Because just like so happy. Because I think you were I think you were the first fan. No, Danny was. You were the second fan I ever met in person. And then, you know, my life changes that next Monday. I go through unemployment, still doing the podcast, get the job. Like, I do this. It's just all that. I've grown, you've grown, and you continue to make me grow and learn as a person, just for being who you are and your perspectives. Because you're very smart, you're very intelligent, and the way you handle things that make you uncomfortable. I know there's different times I've asked questions on cards and I've had where you've clearly been uncomfortable, maybe even a little pissed off.
For sure.
But you handle it incredibly well.
Thank you.
Sometimes you just don't say anything. So that's the key.
And that's sometimes better for y'all.
Yeah. But like, you listen, you hear my point, and even if you disagree with you, like, it's fine. It's never like a fuck you, Will, or you've never once called me a transphobe or a homophobe or any kind of
because
phobe.
You're not.
Right. Of course.
You might not always get it, but that doesn't mean you're not actively trying and working on it and trying to learn.
Right. And I love it because I get to pass what you passed me on to other people. Even if they don't get it, even if I have a tough time explaining it, it's cool. It's something that I fucking love. And I'm honored to have you as a friend, and I love you so much. I'm so happy you are a co-host and a friend on the King's Rings podcast.
I love you so much. That was really nice. I was in a really bad mood before I came on the show, so like that just like made my fucking night. So thank you. Literally the opposite of feeling like a good friend and like I'm the shit. So like,
it's just wild. Our story is so fucking crazy.
I know.
It's so crazy, and it's only going to get crazier.
Oh, I know. Especially like the older we're getting, like the more like we're all getting our shit together. Like the three of us, I think, all moved in the same year. Ricky and I moved in the same month.
Yep.
We're all in relationships now. Like we all found jobs that like we love doing and are good at.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've really figured our shit out, like as co-hosts together.
Yeah. Like, I know Jazz has two gay friends, and I can't wait for their wedding. Whenever they decide to get married, it's going to be the best thing ever. But above that, Kae Murphy, I can't wait for your wedding. I think it's just going to be the silliest, craziest, wackiest thing, like in the middle of a forest kind of wedding.
You know what's wild? My wedding Pinterest board has a lot of Lord of the Rings shit on it.
Oh my God, I love it.
So,
I love it.
I want, like, my wedding band is going to be the fucking One Ring. Like, I'm calling my bridal party the Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh.
Like.
Oh, yes.
Hold on. I got more. Hold on. Let me pull up my fucking Pinterest board. Like, I got Lord of the Rings shit in my vows.
Did I ever tell you, like, if mine didn't matter, what I would want to do?
What would you do?
I would just leave the country, go to New Zealand, and live as a hobbit.
That sounds so nice.
Like, you know, like they have the Shire there, like the whole, like the set. I just want to live on the set. I want to live in Bag End.
I want to live in Bag End. So in my wedding vows, I want one ring to bring them all and in marriage bind them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like my wedding, I feel like is going to be half nerd, half like goth. Like there's a very good chance I wear a black wedding dress.
That's why I love it, Kae Murphy. You're so fucking different. You do,
like
everything is different.
I don't know. I have a feeling I could be coerced into a white dress if it's like the right one. Like I'm open to it, but like my soul feels like it's gonna be a black dress. I'm gonna wear sparkly Doc Martens. I want a leather jacket that says mix whatever my last name will end up being.
Yeah.
And like it's gonna be the weirdest wedding in the world. And I want it.
I think I don't like, I know the traditions of weddings. I'm just like, listen, like I see all the shit my brother's going through. I hear all the shit that your friends are going through with their wedding. Every time I've ever heard about someone planning a wedding,
stressful.
It's never been a good experience. I'm just like, how about we just don't do that? Let's just not have a rehearsal dinner. Like, why? Right?
Like I feel like you're barely gonna know what's going on anyway. And I feel like a lot of the rehearsal dinner stuff, like especially for ceremony, can be hashed day of.
Right.
Unless you're a fucking psycho and have like an 11 a.m. wedding.
Right.
I don't know. I fucking hate people that get married in the morning. Like that's rude.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the church 10 a.m. The reception's at like 6. You're like, what am I gonna do in the middle of the day?
Luckily, only one of my friends have gotten married in a church.
Only my cousin and my brother will, but I'm not. I'm not getting married in a church. No, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not religious. So like I want to get married. I'm gonna get married in like a fucking, I don't know where I would get married realistically.
I want to get married on a lake.
It's giving me Anakin and Padme.
Yeah, right?
I love that.
Some nice lake upstate or wherever I end up living. But Kae Murphy, there'll be plenty of time to talk about lakes, weddings.
I'll show you off air where my friends got married actually would be perfect for your fantasy.
The barn?
Gilbertsville, yes.
Okay, yeah, send me all those. But Kae Murphy, that'll wrap it up. Anything you want to plug, your Twitter, Kings of the Rings, Trevor Project, anything you guys say, the floor, my friend, is yours.
Alrighty. So if you want to follow our podcast, Kings of the Rings podcast, you can follow us across all social media platforms on YouTube and on Twitch at KOTR_podcast. You can find that on Wrestle Addict Radio at Wrestle Addict Radio on Twitter. And I believe it's at Wrestle Addict Radio on Instagram and then at addict_wrestle on Twitter. I think, right, Will? Maybe
that sounds right.
That sounds right. I didn't do the social media for like a year or anything. You can follow my job, the Trevor Project. You can go on their website, thetrevorproject.org. You can donate to them. If you would want to volunteer for them, you can apply to volunteer on their website. And if you know anybody that is struggling, you can refer LGBTQ young people ages 13 to 24 to us. And we will listen to them. I don't think I have anything else to plug. I don't think. My Animal Crossing island is thriving. I just opened a diner.
I totally forgot to talk about. Okay, Kae Murphy, you have to come back in a few months so we can talk about Animal Crossing.
Oh, that's right, you played it.
Yeah, I've been playing it. I'm addicted. So
send me your codes and shut up.
I will.
Me your codes.
I will. What fruits do you have on your island?
I'm a native peach island.
Fuck, I'm also a native peach island.
Well, I have an orchard with all the fruits.
Okay, perfect. I need all those fruits. I only have peaches.
Oh yeah, come over. I'll give you all the fruit.
All right, we'll get that all sorted out. But ladies and gentlemen, my name, of course, is Will Tarashuk. The Tarashuk, and talking with Tarashuk, it's Tees and Thomas, ARASHUK. Yes, Kae Murphy.
I forgot to plug my social media.
Oh, go ahead. Go for it.
And you can follow me across all social media platforms at the Kae Murphy, THEKAE Murphy. Sorry, Will. I'm not good at outros. We know this.
You're gonna love this one. It's the biggest podcast solution. I do it all in one breath if I can. It's just a lot of silliness.
Oof.
Let's see if I can do it. No, I can't do it. I gotta sit up right. All right. Talking with Tarashuk.
Diaphragmatic breathing, William.
Fuck, I'll do the outro in the double blocks. Tees and Thomas, ARASHUK. The Talking with Tarashuk podcast can be found anywhere and everywhere podcast can be found. My favorite place is Ambiguous Podcast Solutions.com. where all of my other podcasts, including Ambiguous podcast, which might talk to podcasters about their podcasts, as well as Kings of Rings podcast, all of Wrestle Act Radio, Fretzelmania, the YLP, what used to be Manta's show, many more, all of our partners. If you want to work with me or be a guest on this podcast, email me at will@apspodcast.com. That is will@apspodcast.com. And if you make me go, ooh, that's interesting, congratulations, you're on the show. Kae Murphy makes me go, ooh, every Wednesday at 8 o'clock when we are live on YouTube for the Kings of the Rings podcast. All my shenanigans. Yes,
but don't forget that 7:30 Meat Slapping Majesty pre-show on YouTube.
7:30 for the Meat Slapping Majesty pre-show and also on Twitch. But yeah, I'll be back next time talking with, I don't know, another friend. Who knows? We'll see. Talking about, I don't know. This is fun. I didn't have any notes down because it's a podcast. Whenever someone asks me, what's a podcast? This is a podcast. Congratulations. We'll go start one.